Come on, tough guy.
Sons of Scotland, I am William Wallace, and I see a whole army of my countrymen, but they'll never take our freedom!
Welcome to the real Flat Earth Friday. How are you doing this evening, brother?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Friday Night Lights. Hope everybody's dialed in for a great podcast.
Yeah, it's the podcast all the heliocentric shills wanted, but then they backed out of. Everybody wanted to know, well, how does your model explain it? How does your model explain it? Well, that's exactly what we're going to show tonight, is how the SBVR model explains all 12 experiments that Will Duffy and crew did in Antarctica.
Yeah, well, we're going to show how, 10 of them were the exact same false dichotomy created on, meridians getting shorter in the south. And how really the lack of their ability to debunk the fact that the Earth is flat and stationary is obvious. It gleamingly jumps off of the page when you introspect and actually investigate the quote unquote non-scientific experiments that they tried to do. Basically, they tried to prop up a straw man AE single pole pressurized pizza dome model, and they tried to knock it down. It's almost like having your bowling gutters up so that they always hit a pin, or, they couldn't play regular baseball. They couldn't even do underhand. They had to play T-ball with no outfielders. And that's the only way they could possibly enter into the debate sphere. And as you can see, there's no Craig, there's no MC, whatever his name is. They haven't showed up. They backed out. They canceled the debates. And this was part 2. So interestingly enough, when Will Duffy said that he was openly accepting to challenge anybody over his 12 experiments, Jason got to work and put together a 3-part debate series. All this was pretty much ready to be presented and debated on when Will went live with the final debate before he quit YouTube. And it's too bad, Jason, honestly, that Will didn't actually have you go through this and defend the stances that he had created. But ultimately what we can see is that, he wasn't allowed to actually get into the ring because his ability to defend the 12, nonsense, non-scientific experiments that they create up would have been obvious for the whole world to see. So they created this staged, stupid debate where, even I got kicked out for saying globe, and I didn't even say globe. So as you can see, everything they did was set up to stop you from actually exposing the farce that the final experiment was. And this will be linked to that final experiment. And moving forward, anybody wants to actually find the truth, they're going to be able to find this content.
Yeah, the 3 parts were ready to go. Now we're doing them as separate podcasts. So part 1 was exposing how all 12 experiments they weren't experiments. So it was debunking the 12 experiments, but they were trying to make a point with each one of them. And so now we're going to go through each of those 12 and show how the SBVR model actually explains all 12 accurately. It'll look way better than any spinning ball could. And then the 3rd part would be the SBVR model, or virtual reality, versus spaceballism, which is atomism everything came from nothing. Everybody's on spinning space balls. There are these infinite tiny specks of dust that have no creator. And so that would be part 3. And then there's a bonus one where we have 12 heliocentric debunks that are all each one individually different, instead of reusing the same one 10 times like Will did. So we've got lots of content. And tonight, the exciting thing about it is we're going to pull up the tools, the models, and we're going to be showing everybody in detail, to the 100th of a degree per second, actually, how all these things are working. And I like the modeling part of it. I like showing the tools that we've found over the last 8 years. And to me, that's my favorite part of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. What I really enjoy is the simplicity of creation, how the steadiness of it, how the sun rises, how the sun sets, how the moon rises, how the moon sets, how the luminaries do what they do, and how it's been tracked for thousands of years, and you're able to predict what it'll do for thousands of years, all point to the fact that we are in a programmed, created reality. And it doesn't matter how hard atheists, Satanists, anybody that hates the creator and hates this creation fights, they will continually be shown as frauds that they are, for deceiving liars who have to create fallacy upon fallacy, because the truth is simple. It's plain. You can see it. It's not hard to understand. A child can understand it. And that's the truth of it. What you'll get into is these arguments that these characters have to go through to create some kind of a distraction so that they can insert some kind of an evolutionary Big Bang, everything was created from nothing cosmology. And yet day after day, night after night, month after month, year after year, millennial after millennial, everything is exactly the way that it was created to be. And I'm just excited that we're at a stage of creation now where we can actually model these things, predict them, we can measure them, we can put simple calculations onto the screen, we can put these into 3D programs and actually check, hey, if the Earth was flat, how would something look at the distance? How would it, would there be a vanishing point where objects would disappear from the bottom up? We're able to rise up in elevation with drones. We're able to do photography in all different ways. The P1000 really helped us to really get a good look at the reality around us. And I'm just excited tonight. And I hope you tuning in are just as excited to me as learning. And we might not have all the answers. We might not have all the best terms and the best way to explain things, but I tell you, we do have effort. Jason has a lot of effort. You put in a lot of work for this, and I'm just excited, and I hope you guys enjoy it as much as me.
Yeah, so there's something I want to prep everybody for. It seemed like sharing with everybody, it would be easy to explain that we're in a virtual reality and show the proofs, and people would see it and catch on to it, because we're in a day and age where virtual realities are literally being created right now. Now, they don't have the ability where you can get the in-person experience yet. That's something that Elon Musk is supposedly working on. But I just want to prep everybody, if you learn from us these different ways to prove that we're in a virtual reality, and you start explaining this to somebody else, and they turn around and say, oh, you believe you're in a simulation and nothing's real, right away you can know for sure that that person is a shill, like a New World Order shill, or just a glitched out NPC, because that is not what we are saying. We're saying that the experience that you're having is 100% real, but it's not the atomistic, materialistic model that's been promoted by the Vatican and by Kabbalists, all right? So atoms, all that kind of stuff, it comes from Kabbalah. If you believe that you're on a spinning ball flying through space made up of atoms, you're literally a puppet of the Vatican and a Kabbalist. So we're trying to break people free from that spell, wake people up to the true nature of reality. And everything is super consequential. Just being in a virtual reality doesn't mean that you get off the hook and everything's scot-free. We get into the biblical aspect of things as well. Not tonight so much. Tonight's going to be about the technical. How do we know that this is a virtual reality? How does the models, how do the formulas, how do all those things work? And yeah, unless if you want to talk about anything else, we can get into it. So let's go ahead and get ourselves set up with this, and
Just say hi to Zworst, Lamp in the Wilderness, Solid Tank, Yahawashai son, Jay, Tevs, welcome to the channel. Lamp in the Wilderness again, thank you to everyone that showed up. Always, I guess, the moderator with the absolute most, YD, thank you for being here. You're the most valued and respected member of the team, and you do your best, and we're grateful that you're here tonight. Hopefully your tech can hold tight. Don't know if you've got your tech up and running, but welcome in. And anybody that might be just lurking or trolling, come on in the chat. Let us know what you're up to.
Yeah, so this was prepared to go for the quote unquote final debate. And so what this is it's the explanations for how the SBVR model actually fits the 12 experiments way better than a spinning ball does. So the big picture was that Will claimed 12 experiments. In reality, they collapse into 3 concepts. We've been mentioning that. You'll see it again. You saw it in our last podcast, and all 3 are fully explained by the SBVR framework. No spinning spaceball required. So the SBVR, projection geometry, Z-axis weight algorithm, and program luminary paths. That's all it takes. So just those 3 concepts. So these different engines, the projection geometry, the meridians and luminary paths. So longitude, convergence, and divergence equals projection effect of a 2-pole stereographic plane. That's the reason why we gave up on the AE projection pretty much immediately. Like 8 years ago, we saw that it doesn't work and the Earth has 2 poles. So we started looking for a 2-pole projection, which they call stereographic. Azimuth and altitude data match reality to 1/100th of a degree per second via stellarium, suncalc, mooncalc, etc. We'll be showing all the different programs that are not based off of a globe, that are actually based off of a virtual reality because they have the luminaries rising from a plane and setting into a plane. The luminaries rise and set into the observer's circle of sight, determined by height above sea level. The engine number 2, this is because there's only 3 different concepts that were attacked by the 12 experiments. This is the Z-axis drop algorithm, and it has to do with weight and pressure. We'll actually get into the actual formula for how things fall on Earth. Apparent weight equals output of the VR system's fall drop algorithm. Variations explained by altitude and air pressure changes, not latitude. No need for centrifugal force or curvature gravity. Engine number 3, predictable program motions, equatorial mounts and tracking. All the space shills say, oh, flat earthers can't handle equatorial mounts. That's only because they were using the AE map and model. It actually works perfectly.
Well,
go ahead.
And what we're going to notice here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and anyone that's, truly focusing and paying attention, is you're going to see a lot of stolen concept fallacy, right? The very fact that these things work the way that they do, how they're so programmed, actually leads one to the conclusion that we live in a programmed reality, which, for the lack of a better term as of right now, virtual reality is the best one that we can come up with. We don't want to just call it some sort of, the video game of Adam and Eve or the creation of life eternal. But what you're going to see over and over again is that things are so finely tuned. Leonard Susskind, many other of these top scientists, George Smoot, many of them have started to understand long before Jason and I came to this table, started doing this research, that the chances of our reality not being virtual was almost impossible. Like, it's astronomical to an actual, if there was, astronomical. And again, tonight, all 12 of these experiments, how they actually work, how they perform, are going to show conclusively that we live in a programmed reality.
So the wobbling spinning globe. So an equatorial mount only has 2 axes, if you know anything about equatorial mounts. And a wobbling spinning globe. And they have like 9 different motions applied to this spinning spaceball, would absolutely require a 3-axis gimbal, right? Everything would be whipping around at wild angles all the time. And no, a 2-axis gimbal is all you need to track the luminaries, and we'll show you why. So, the SBVR explains Duffy's 12 experiments. The core principle: Will claims he tested 12 unique proofs of a spinning spaceball. In reality, 10 of them are just recycled false dichotomies built on a single assumption. That's the distance between meridians getting smaller as you head south, while the other 2 involve weight variation and equatorial mounts. That's only 3 actual concepts, and all 3 are fully explained by the SBVR model without needing a spinning globe. How the SBVR answers all 12. Concept 1, the distance between meridians, the 10 experiments. Will presents longitudinal convergence as if it's the only exists on a spinning globe. The SBVR explains this directly. Meridian convergence divergence is a projection effect of the VR coordinate system, not evidence of curvature. SBVR uses 2-pole stereographic projection where longitude spacing compresses symmetrically in both hemispheres, exactly what Will measures. Thus, all 10 experiments that strawman a 1-pole Gleason map collapse instantly when the correct 2-pole SBVR framework is applied. Concept 2, the weight variation. Will claims weight changes at different latitudes proves centrifugal forces from Earth's spin. The SBVR explanation: weight is variable because it is governed by the z-axis fall drop algorithm of the VR system, which adjusts locally on the z-axis depending on position within the projection. No spinning ball required. The algorithm handles apparent weight differences automatically, and we'll get into this actual formula. The equatorial mounts. Will says telescopes aligned to the South Pole prove a spinning globe. The SBVR explanation: equatorial mounts are tools that exploit the predictable paths of luminaries in the VR projection system. Their accuracy is proof of a stable program motion, not proof of rotation. We can jump all over that. The fixed luminaries haven't changed position to each other for the last 6,000 years, right? And you can even use things like stellarium and see that they don't change position. If we were moving, they would always be changing constantly. The big picture: Will's 12 experiments shrink down to 3 simple concepts: meridians, weight variation, equatorial mounts. And let's go ahead and jump into experiment number 1. Will, the so-called 24-hour sun has been one of the cornerstone claims of your final experiment projection, but the record shows we were ahead of you the entire time. On June 16th, 2023, we said outright that our SBVR framework predicts a 24-hour sun in the south. We documented it here. So, and I will
stay on time.
I will add
100th of a degree per second. Right, and there's the path of the sun going right back down into the ground. We are watching the footage of what this looks like when the sun's setting down into the ground. Now, the next segment that we're going to be going through is the circling sun, because here's the issue. I'm going to go farther and farther north. All right, so I'm going farther and farther north. Look at what's happening here as I go. I'm going up to the top of Norway here. Now all of a sudden this diagram is showing a circling never setting sun. Alright, if I hit play on the sun, now what we have is a sun that stays above the horizon 24 hours a day and never sets.
Yep.
The problem with that is
so I know I argued that we still hadn't seen any footage, and coincidentally, we're not coincidence theorists. All the different videos of the sun in the south circling above the horizon started coming out last spring after Will announced his final experiment. But here you can see this was documented where Jason was showing within this system, the Andrew Marsh programmed with a flat stationary Earth with the luminaries rotating around the observer. Jason timestamped and documented right? We got the receipts that we were saying that this was actually what took place in reality. And not only that, but it's actually demanded for you to be able to navigate throughout the coordinate system. You cannot have a single pole. You have to have two poles. It just, there is no other way. You'd constantly be falling off course.
Yeah. So one of the things that we ran into for many years is all the fake flat earthers were saying that there was a 24-hour sun in the north, but then all the videos that they had of it were obviously fake. You could go through them and pick out all the flaws and see that they were not real. And then also in the south, there was no footage of a 24-hour sun that could be found. Right. Afterwards, like Ron said, then all of a sudden the links were opened up where all of a sudden people could see that footage, but that wasn't until like the final experiment came along. Yep. So we were saying the model predicts a 24-hour sun, but we had seen no real proof of it yet. And then we can go back to the document, because the next point is on January 28th, 2024. This was before Will Duffy announced the final experiment at all. We even showed that we believe to be the first real footage of a 24-hour sun in the Arctic. So go ahead.
Nope. Sorry.
All right. So this is before the final experiment. First, we were saying the model predicts it, and then we were saying we think we found the first real footage of it, and that's here.
Yeah, I was arguing that I'm not going to believe it until I actually see evidence of it, and you brought the evidence finally, and I believe it was shared by Zworst over in Telegram. And ladies and gentlemen, if you know, here's a shameless plug. If you're not subscribed over on Reality Check Chat, and Team Yahawashai's Telegram, you won't even find it. Zworst has a Telegram group too. And a lot of this stuff we put up there so you can be way ahead. You can be way ahead of the curve.
So just show everybody the timestamp. This was January 28th of 2024, long before final experiment.
It enraged John LeBon when he was going around shaming every single pressurized pizza dome flat earther. He was just loving it, licking his chomps. He was going around mocking every single person. And then when he got to our doorstep, he said, "Where's your evidence that you were sharing that there was a 24-hour sun?" And here it is. I served it up to him, and he didn't like that too much.
And here we are back. And we are back at Reality Check Chat, everyone. This is the place to be if you want to be the cutting edge of the truth. So we had we've been having some ongoing discussions regarding this 24-hour sun, and we keep on maintaining that we had seen no proof of a 24-hour sun staying above the horizon, circling above the horizon, even though the model that we use predicts that there would be one. Right? We just didn't see the evidence for it until this came along. So I want to show you all this. We had character Zworst in Reality Check Chat share these two links here that we're going to be going through, and let's go ahead and take a look at this first one. So I'm going to point out a few things that I really like about this video from the get-go, and that is we have a date, we have a time, and we have a location. So this is the type of information that's missing from so many of the CGI circling sun videos. And so we have Toolik Lake, Alaska, Arctic. This was June 2013. All right, so let's go ahead and start checking this video out, and then we're going to start doing some of our research and show you the types of things that we look at to verify whether or not this is real footage or not.
I'd say we got some ice there.
Yeah.
See some floating ice, which is interesting to point out because this is during the summer solstice time. So it's when the sun is actually at its highest zenith point in the sky.
June 26 here, and there is still ice moving across the lake.
Right? Well, why would anyone want to live there? It's a psyop. But, you know, the sun didn't go below the horizon there.
Didn't go below.
So that right there was basically all that we got. And just knowing that it was in the north and that the sun got to its lowest point, but then started coming back up again while staying above the horizon. That was enough for us to go, hey, this might be a 24-hour sun here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was the first real looking footage. It had, you know, timestamps, locations. We could actually check it within the Andrew Marsh program. What you'll get is like the earliest version of Unreal Engine, systems that were created to make video games, and characters that were quick on the scene was Eric Dubay, Rob Skiba, David Weiss, deep inside the rabbit hole at that time. They were the ones that were sharing the footage that had no location, no timestamp, no date. You couldn't find anything. And if you played that video, you actually got it taken down. They would throw a copyright strike and remove your content. So it was only at this point when I actually accepted that the model is correct and the Earth is flat and there is reciprocal suns that circle. One singular sun circles in the north in the summer and in the northern winter in the south. And it, I was sold. This was it. This did it for me.
Yeah. So let's go back to our document here. And remember, this is about the 24-hour sun. This is Will's #1, biggest proof from his whole thing, right?
Well,
so we showed that our model predicted it, and we were the first ones to actually show real footage of a 24-hour sun
in the debate. So
in the debate,
because that video was up, and not only that, Will, you didn't go to the actual South Pole. The whole, I mean, how did he drop the ball so badly?
That means we didn't run from this issue. We predicted it, we documented it, and we explained it inside the SBVR framework. So we were ahead of Will's final experiment. When you first pushed your final experiment series, we were the first so-called flat earthers to cover it. And in that very first coverage, we already had the azimuth and elevation angles calculated and published before you even confirmed where they would be and on what day. So in other words, we had the data ready to go while you were still setting up. Why this doesn't prove a globe. The fact that the sun can appear to circle for 24 hours at extreme latitudes does not prove a spinning spaceball. What it proves is that luminaries follow azimuth and elevation paths that can be predicted to the 100th of a degree per second on a fixed and stationary plane. Let's sort of dive into this being able to predict here, because this is something that the heliocentrists, the spaceballers, can't do because they don't have any models.
No, and their models that they do have misrepresent the way that everything's working because they're not to scale. They're not. You can't actually scale it so that you can get a reading, right? You have to flatten the Earth and then zoom in and have a local sun.
Yeah, to get any sort of prediction, it would have to be a 2-scale model, and it's impossible to create a 2-scale model of what they say heliocentrism is. Even just Earth's solar system. They say Earth and the planets in its solar system, even that itself is at a scale that is not able to be, you can't see it. You would take a 26-mile wide screen if you made Mercury 1 centimeter.
Yep.
All right, so they've never had a 2-scale
The JTron,
model.
right?
They've never had a 2-scale model, yet there's these models that exist, right? So let's go ahead and talk about the models that exist. And those are ones like we found the Andrew Marsh. And we really like the Andrew Marsh because it gives you this the 3D perspective where you can be on the outside seeing what's taking place here. I don't know why I had this all set up, but let's get this set back up again because we'll be using this multiple times. So this right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was trying to give you time, but you're there.
Yeah. I'm going to show everybody that here we are at something like England, latitude 54. And what is happening here is that the sun is rising in the east, setting in the west, and it's, I gotta get this to, there we go. So the sun goes into the plane and comes back out of the plane, and this represents a person's circle of sight. As far as you can see to the horizon, that's based on your elevation, and the luminary rises at the horizon and sets at the horizon in your circle of sight. And in order for this to be accurate, it has to, because it's going 15 degrees per hour around here, it has to follow this exact path. It can't be circling this huge hoop around an Earth. It has to follow a path like this in order for it to be accurate. So this, go ahead.
So it doesn't speed up. It doesn't slow down. Everyone can witness this and measure it themselves. It rises in the sixth. You can create 6 gates, right, on one side, and then 6 gates reciprocally on the other side. And you can make a tick on each side of the gates for each day that the sun rises and sets, and you'll be able to perfectly track the sun. And the Book of Enoch completely explained this observation roughly 5,000 years ago, perfectly to the day, where it was almost as if Enoch was sat down in front of this program and he was shown this is how the luminaries work.
Yeah. So what we have is when we show things like this, we have the shills like Jaren and Toon and Fight the Fat Earth and these characters. They say, oh, this is based on a globe. I'm going to be showing you all the programs that show the path of the luminaries around the observer. They're based on a virtual reality because the luminaries are rising from Earth and setting into Earth. Now, there is a place, if you go far enough north, like we showed before, you get to a place where this path right here can be above the horizon for part of the year. And then if you go to the other, if you go to the south, you can go far enough south, the path of the luminaries can be above the horizon for part of the year. Go ahead and hit play on something like this. All right, so that's how you get the 24-hour sun. But everywhere in between, it is actually rising from and setting into a plane. Now, I'm going to show you some other programs that do the exact same thing. This right here, these were all set up.
Yeah, it does that when you go live. Sometimes what you have to do is refresh them. Do you want to do a song break and refresh them, or I guess we're only 35 minutes in. Should be able to keep going. Yeah, sometimes it does it. We've definitely, at least we're still able to do the content that we want. That's what matters. And yeah, so again, the modeling programs that actually work, that are actually used to chart and calculate things, are always done on a flat stationary map. You'll never see somebody using a sphere. You'll never see anybody calculating curvature for anything. The only thing they'll do is stolen concept fallacy and try to attribute mathematics and then say that that equals curvature.
So this is another Andrew Marsh program. It has the exact same data as this program right here, but this one's set up the way SunCalc is, if we can get SunCalc to load at some point. But if we take our time slider here, you're going to see that the sun came out of a flat plane,
Wow.
comes around and sets into a flat plane. Now you can actually not get this to go around Earth.
No.
Right? You back up as far as you can, and no matter what, the sun is always going to come out of a flat plane, circle around, set into a flat plane.
And so, I mean, just that point alone, I would like that for the observer, for you tuning in right now, just to contemplate that. Think about this. Why is it whenever we try to model reality, whenever we try to calculate and measure and precisely show how things work, why is it that we're doing it on a flat plane with the luminaries rising from under the earth, rising above our heads, and then setting back into the ground? Why is it?
Here's the thing. You can't see this far. If you actually bring this down to a scale that you can actually see of maybe 20 miles or so, this is the type of path that you get where the sun comes out right here, and this will be the correct compass heading right here. This will be the correct compass heading. And then the altitude, right? Its peak at its right here. All these measurements are actually accurate to 100th of a degree per second, but then it shows it going into the ground.
Yeah. And we're not like trying to say that we're any different than anything else. We're just showing you the measurement tools that are given. Now, their defense is, this map has 3959 broken down into the source code. And so again, we will constantly make sure to let people know that you can express multiple things with mathematics. I can do mathemagic up and down. Have you ever seen card tricks? Have you ever seen the way that you can calculate three different things in different manners and come up with the same answer? And reciprocally, you can calculate things and come up with completely incorrect answers when doing the exact same calculations. So again, what we're showing is the tools that are built for humans to actually witness and actually verify what they witness on a modeling program. And this is what they are.
Yeah. So once again, here's SunCalc. They have the exact same setup where you have this 2D overhead. And no matter what, I'm backed up as far as I can right here. And I cannot get it so that the sun does not come out of Earth. But once again, the actual scale is, it's going to be down at the 20-mile range, right? Where once you get down here close enough, and it's like 20 miles or so, if you're right here, sun's going to come up right over there from a flat plane, come around and set into a flat plane. So this is one of the tools that we've been using for a long time. Stellarium is another program just like this. Hopefully this one, all right, this one's still loaded. And so in Stellarium, if we back up our view a little bit, now we're at the South Pole. We'll probably be coming back here. But let's go someplace. We'll go to Texas. And we've got, we're going to have a sunrise. We'll go through the night here. Here comes our sunrise. And I want to show you all that it's coming around overhead. I will turn to the west. And we'll watch it set over here in the west. And then once it gets down below the horizon, what I'm going to do is turn off our ground. And as soon as I turned off the ground, you can see that it's actually rotating directly around the observer. So as I rotate this, you can see all the constellations, all the stars, everything is rotating around the observer here. All right, just the same way as it is right here. It's the exact same thing. There's other programs too. Whereas all you have to do is look up something like Sun Position app. There's a ton of them now where you can get this right on your phone, and you'll see these apps like this that show
Manhattan Henge. They represent actual observations there.
Yeah, and you'll actually see on your phone that it's rising right out there coming up from the ground, going overhead, and going back into the ground, doing a circle around you. And I mean, there's lots and lots of these apps now. They've got the augmented reality. And when you look at these, the sun's going to set right there into the ground. It's the Earth's not spinning. The luminaries are rotating around you. The heliocentrists have never been able to prove that we're moving. All we can prove is that the luminaries are moving. So every single one of these apps that show the sun, moon, stars rising from a plane and setting into a plane, they're all virtual reality proofs, absolute proofs. And all this data is taken from observations on a flat plane where you set up a theodolite or a tool like that, you level it, and you get an azimuth and you get an altitude from a flat plane.
Yeah. Well, and the other funny thing is that Will's complete experiment, most of them, and the main reason that he went there to witness the sun, it was actually filming and recording the sun moving throughout the sky, right? Not the Earth, the sun literally traversing around them, literally around them in the Antarctic region.
Yeah, so that's just a taste of the tools right there, everybody.
There's more.
All of those tools right there are proof that we're in a virtual reality. They are not built off of a spinning spaceball cosmology. We said from the start the SBVR model predicts the 24-hour sun. We've shown both southern and northern footage consistent with those predictions, and we had the data before you did, Will. So experiment 1 doesn't prove the globe. It proves our predictive model was ahead of your final experiment from the very beginning. All right, do you want to do number 2?
Sure. I can read that if you want. You'll have to do the screen share.
Yeah.
So now that we move on to number 2, they will start to go faster and we will have music breaks throughout this here. So experiment number 2, the 24-hour moon in, you guessed it, the Antarctic region. Experiment number 2, the 24-hour moon. Let's set that record straight, Will Duffy. Long before you ever mentioned the 24-hour up all day moon, we exposed it first. We had already documented and explained that the moon does, yes, stay above the horizon for 14 days in both the North and the South Pole. Here's a timestamp, who people call receipts. You can actually see where we actually talked about it. You want to go to it, or?
Let's check it out.
Not only were we the first so-called flat earthers to cover the so-called final experiment, but we immediately pointed out that not only is there a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, but the moon also stays above the horizon for 14 days at a time.
Not a single one. Isn't this exciting? The fact that I cannot find a single video on YouTube of a 24-hour moon in Antarctica means one of two things. It either means that the globe is a...
What's that?
The globe is a lie. Yeah, the globe is a lie. Absolutely. Sorry, I cut him off. I should have let him continue to run his mouth. Let's get back to the experiment. Just, you showed it. Oh yeah, you want to show it more conclusively?
Well, I just want people to see this 24-hour moon. Actually, it's up for 14 days, and I want people to see the path of it, because this is another one of the heliocentric debunks. When you watch the path of it,
videos, you got to understand that batteries have to be changed and things like that.
So you see how these are horizontal circles where it's going around like this. The camera's following it. It goes up in elevation. It comes back down in elevation. But these are all horizontal circles that don't have a tilted wobble to it.
Not on 23.5 degrees with a 5-degree optic-elliptic plane.
Every once in a while, you'll see a splice.
I just wanted everybody to see the horizontal circles there.
That's right. The phenomena is not a surprise to us. We predicted it and explained it in the framework years, again, before the final experiment series. Why it doesn't work on a Spaceball is much more important. The geometry of a horizontally circling moon above the poles cannot be reconciled with a tilted, wobbling, spinning, gyrating Earth. On a Spaceball, the moon's orbit and Earth's tilt makes such horizontal paths actually impossible. But in a fixed and stationary virtual reality framework programmed by the creator, this is exactly what we expect. Luminaries circling horizontally above the horizon at the reciprocal poles. Will's avoidance tactics. Here is the absolute kicker. Will, what happened? You never went to the South Pole and you never filmed the moon in Antarctica. You went at a time when the moon was down the entire time. And you didn't even go to the actual South Pole. You went to only the Union Glacier camp. And the camp that you went to, the team actually provides a flight to the South Pole station. You said you didn't have enough money anymore. Why avoid visiting during the actual period when the moon stays above the horizon for 24 hours a day? Well, we know it's because you knew the geometry wouldn't fit the Spaceball. People would be able to debunk it. Why do you think when they faked the moon landings, they didn't try to put the stars in? It's the same reason that Will is doing what he's doing. Bottom line, we documented the 24-hour moon long before Will and the final experiment, and the geometry destroys the Spaceball, but it actually fits perfectly into the Stereographic Biblical Virtual Reality. You never filmed the moon in Antarctica. You sidestepped it. You made sure that your experiment time period was not there at that time. When the moon was up, it only needed to be another week later, and you could have had it all. And you could have, for a measly whatever the cost was, a few $1,000s, flown to the actual South Pole and then walked around with your compass out, showing its spin on its axis. But you didn't do any of these things. So the experiment 2 isn't proof of a globe. It's proof that you avoided the evidence that only the SBVR model can explain. And now we have these graphics here that Jason's put together. So the main thing that I want to simply put before I turn it to you to explain this graphic, the fact that if we were created in a Big Bang by accident cosmology where everything exploded from nothing and started moving out at a distance, and now we can calculate it, quote unquote, but the redshift that was actually debunked by quasars being local, and they were much redder than the supposed galaxies at the edge of the universe. The fact that all of this happened, but the very precise movement of the Earth and the sun and the moon perfectly working together while spinning around the Great Galactor, right, which is our center. They say it's a black hole, but you can't see black holes. The Milky Way galaxy, spinning around that galaxy, flying through the universe, but yet we only ever see one face of the moon, that it perfectly aligns, that it perfectly moves, everything's spinning, everything's moving in all different directions. The moon has to speed up tremendously to catch around the backside of the sun as it's traveling millions of miles an hour through the universe around the Milky Way galaxy, yet we only see one face of the moon. Now, Jason, please, could you explain to everybody what this graphic is showing with the 5.2 degrees?
Yeah, I mean, this is the cleanest you'll find of any heliocentric explanation for the path of the moon around Earth. So what they have is the ecliptic plane, which is another word for that would be orbit. All right, so this is the orbit of the sun right here. They have the sun centered on it. They have Earth tilted at a 23.5 degree tilt right here. This, you're literally looking at a debunk of heliocentrism right now, because this would be one of the equinoxes. So the Earth is tilted at 23.5 degrees. That means that you wouldn't have a 90 degree sunrise to 70 degree sunset anywhere on Earth. So they call this the equatorial plane. This is the path of the equator of the Earth. Then they have the moon's tilted back the other direction, 5.2 degrees. So you can add that 5.2 to the 23.5, so you get roughly 28.5 degrees that you can see the sun above the plane of Earth. So that's the highest elevation that you'll get at the North and South Pole. And that part of it checks out, but the geometry here doesn't work, because with this tilted axis right here and the up for 14 days, down for 14 days, what we saw in the video, we'll go back to the video here quick, is these horizontal circles
on this. But other than that, it's pretty clean. It's really clean.
Yeah.
It tracks the moon And
So that geometry right there, when I ran this through ChatGPT, it said no, that the moon would be going up and down every day.
Yeah.
Every day, right?
With
up
the
and down.
reciprocal non-uniform angles that we're talking about here. So let's okay.
That path right there can only happen. Let's go back to the models real quick. I want to show people. So we have the Andrew Marsh like this, all right, on a flat plane. Now, then somebody like Jaron will come along and he'll say, well, it's supposed to be like this,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So here's the Andrew Marsh applied to a space ball. And let's go ahead. And I want to show everybody here. So here's that same
the tilt's gone.
Same path of the sun around an observer where the sun's gonna rise from Earth, right? From Earth, come around, set into Earth. But they're saying, oh, but this circle of sight is too small. So let's go ahead and make that circle of sight bigger. And once we get it up to something like this, you're gonna start to be able to see that all they did is they took the exact same thing that we were looking at on the flat plane and they stuck it on the side of the ball, and it's just cut off right there. So if I come around like this, now all of a sudden the sun literally crashes.
And there's no tilt. They have the Earth perpendicular. It's not at a 23.5 degree tilt here.
Yeah, and then if somebody says, well, this still isn't big enough, it's got to go all the way around. Well, this is the largest that they can make it. And when you look at this, you will see, I got to get rid of this. So it'll come around here and look at where the sun is. So like I said before, on this flat plane, in order to get all these measurements to 100th of a degree accurate, it has to be this circle right here, because it's continually rotating like that. Well, the same is true right here. And look at what they have to do when it comes around here. I mean, it's just barely getting around the backside of Earth right here to go around it.
This joke.
Yeah, and then like Ron was saying, all of this, in order to make it look sort of accurate, they stood the Earth straight up and down.
Yeah, it's not tilted. It's completely perpendicular. And unfortunately, that's not the way that the heliocentric model was designed. Our solar system, the way that the Earth is set up, spinning around the sun with the moon, it has to be tilted like that. And the only way that you can zoom in and use it to calculate anything or to actually verify anything, they have to stand it straight back up. And they say, oh, everything's relative. So what they end up doing is they have to contradict themselves at every single turn, whereas we're just simply stating what we observe.
Yeah, so now when you apply the tilt to it, you can clearly see that at the equinoxes, you could not have a 90-270 sunrise anywhere on Earth. And you can look at this from any angle, and you'll see that this doesn't work. Here's your 90-270. It's set at a 23.5 degree tilt. All right. So when they say that we're using models that are based on a globe, no, this is what happens when they take the model that we use and try to apply it to a globe.
That's right.
All right. This is the one that works.
That's right.
This is the one that you can replace this city right here. You can import your 3D model and you can use this for solar calculations.
Test it.
That's what
to align your house, your windows, for heating, for allowing light into spaces, to actually set up solar panel systems so that they have the maximum amount of solar light radiation to it, light. So, amazingly enough, I think it's time, Jason, that was the end. So again, experiment number 2, the fact that the moon's tilt with the Earth is tilt, the fact that we only see one face of the moon, it completely confirms that we live in a programmed reality created by the creator. And it matches again with the Book of Enoch explained roughly 5,000 years ago, long before Will Duffy was around, I think. he might have been around back then, but we don't want to talk about the kind of character he was probably then. And again, we were long ahead showing that the moon stayed above the horizon. Will Duffy didn't even know this video even existed. He couldn't even find it. He said, oh, that's because the Earth isn't a globe. Well, unfortunately, the video did exist, and it actually backs up the SBVR way better than it does the spinning, wobbling sphere.
I mean, here's another one of the luminaries, probably like Venus or Jupiter. And you just see these going around in horizontal circles around you at the poles, right?
I think it's
that's a debunk.
Song break, and then we'll get into number 3. These do start to get a little quicker, everybody that's tuned in, so bear with us.
We are back. And we're on to experiment number 3, but you'll see that because so many of these are repeats, that we'll start moving a little bit quicker. We want to spend the time just hitting the main 3 points. And so South Celestial Pole let's set the record straight about the South Celestial Pole. We have never denied it. In fact, the entire reason we began pushing into two-pole stereographic projections nearly 8 years ago was because we acknowledged Earth has 2 poles, not 1. If we didn't recognize the South Celestial Pole, there would have been no reason at all to explore a 2-pole stereographic projection. We first shared this publicly in 2017, our first release of a 2-pole projection. And since then, we've only refined and strengthened our understanding. We've got a link here. Let's check it out. All right, check this out. So this is a 2-pole stereographic projection. Now, fortunately, we've been able to come across a tool that allows us to move ourselves around, and we're not stuck to this one single orientation, because this right here is a 2-pole stereographic projection centered to France, right? The edge of France and Spain right here. But this was April 12th of 2017. Right? This is the reason why Ron and I know each other. We both realized the Earth has 2 poles. We both went looking for stereographic projections. The first one that we found was the C.S. Pierce 1894. And then we came across this version here, but as you can see, we had to chop it up and rotate it in order to come up with this orientation that is like the C.S. Pierce, where you have the prime meridian in the center. So this is a 2-pole projection, but now we've got the tool where we can center it anywhere. And so you'll see here, if we use an rectangular and we center it to France, there we go. There is the projection that we were using all along. Yeah, it separates Antarctica, half pole on each side like this. But we understand Earth to be a virtual reality, and it has 2 poles, and it's on a flat plane. Now, the only way that you can draw the coordinate system to scale is like this. It's the only way. And so as you move around in here, you'll see the way the poles come around. You can actually get yourself a pretty clean looking, this looks like a similar to a Mercator, right? This is technically accurate, but it's centered to this location right here. And then as you go south, in order to get Antarctica to come together as a whole continent, of course, you have to move towards it. And as you move towards it, right, it keeps redrawing it until this is correct to scale. So this is the same thing as what we were sharing when it was centered to France. It's literally the same thing. All right. Let's go. Here's the key point. We're not surprised by the South Celestial Pole. We expected it, we studied it, we predicted it, and we can show how it works far better in the SBVR framework than in the heliocentric model. We already went through these, because when you stand at the South Pole and look at the moon, the claimed orbital mechanics of the heliocentric model cannot produce the level horizontal circles the moon makes above the horizon. That's a fatal flaw of the Spaceball. The SBVR stereographic projection, which starts by acknowledging both poles, gives a real explanation where the globe fails. So no, we didn't discover the South Celestial Pole from globe defenders. We've been the ones pointing out for years that single pole models were false, and that recognizing 2 poles was the necessary step towards building a predictive model. That's why the SBVR framework exists. Tools and data that we use: Stellarium, SunCalc, MoonCalc, Andrew Marsh's 3D Sun Simulator all produce azimuth and altitude data of the luminaries accurate to 100th of a degree per second anywhere on Earth, any day of the year. These same models show luminaries rotate around observers on a fixed and stationary plane. They rise from that plane and set into that same plane within the observer's circle of sight set by height above sea level. The bottom line, we are the only ones to have true celestial data for the South Pole, or actually anywhere on Earth, because the data comes from our models, the ones that have luminaries coming from a flat plane and setting into a flat plane. The heliocentric spinning spaceball cannot produce a working 2-scale model of its so-called universe. It is impossible. Spaceballers simply quote our data, misrepresent it inside their globe paradigm, and then hope their followers are too distracted to notice the fraud.
Yeah, so this is the constant thing that you'll get when you go to MC Cartoons channel or Fight for the Fat Earth. They'll say, you don't have a model, when in actuality, they don't have a model. They can't articulate, they can't show distinctive movements of the luminaries wrapping around a sphere within the correct frame of what the heliocentric model is. They have to use the programs that show it on a small local scale.
I just want to show everybody, I went to the South Pole here, and so after the equinox, you start having the sun doing circles horizontal like this. You have half the sun up, half the sun down, right? You can see half from the North Pole, half from the South Pole. And here you start to be able to see the moon. If this is when Duffy had gone, you would be able to start to see the new moon as soon as the moon starts to get far enough away from the sun. Look around at the rest of the sky, because there's no direct sunlight. If we go back to the Andrew Marsh here, oops, and we go to the South Pole, and we go to this time of the year, you'll see that, so as the sun comes above the horizon here, we're at the equinox, you're going to notice that it's not even casting any shadows, nor is it even lighting up the surface of these buildings until...
Well, where's the tilt?
No tilt. No tilt. So it's not directing long shadows. It's not even illuminating the faces of these buildings yet. It's not until the sun gets up to a higher elevation that you can start to see that the buildings are beginning to be illuminated, right, with direct sunlight. And watch for the shadows behind the buildings. They're starting to come. They're real faint, but it has to get higher and higher and higher. And then you'll start seeing the sweeping shadow going around. So now at the end of September, you're starting to see these sweeping shadows, and then they'll get darker and darker and darker as the sun gets higher and higher. But at the beginning there was no shadow. Nothing was being illuminated. If we go back to Stellarium, the sun's going around at the horizon. This would not be casting long shadows. In the heliocentric paradigm, this would be the time when you would have, as soon as the sun was above the horizon, you would have boom, blasting hard shadows, everything being illuminated. But let's go back to paying attention to our moon here quick, and the fact that we've got all this dark sky around. I mean, you can see the stars all rotating here, even though you see the sun here. And if I start spinning this, we'll go by the hours. I got to lock onto the moon. So it's rising in its path. We're going by the hours. This is exactly like the footage that we were watching that Will Duffy didn't know anything about. But you would see the sun at the horizon here and the moon, and they're both just doing circles here. Circles around the observer. I mean, that right there would be pretty obvious, everybody. If he had gone and shown this, you could see the rest of the stars over here, the sun right there, the moon here, and everything's doing a horizontal circle around the observer.
Yeah, and they do have people there this time of the year and at the South Pole Station as well.
All right, so
we're ready to move on to experiment number 4. Do you want me to read this one?
Yeah.
So this one's a little bit personal for me. We just passed 9/11 here, or it is 9/11, and back on 9/11/2016, we'll get to it. Okay. Experiment number 4, sunrise and sunset direction. Will, this one is personal. Sunrise and sunset direction is not just another point on your list. It's exactly where we have begun debunking our journey nearly a decade ago. Okay. On 9/11/2016, we officially debunked the Freemason New World Order single pole pressurized pizza dome model using the actual sunrise and sunset direction. I didn't use Punta Arenas, but I used Ushuaia. That was the starting point. Everything since then, the recognition of 2 poles, the development of the stereographic projections, the refinement of the SBVR model, all of it flows from that original breakthrough. Here is the documentation of that work, and guess who it was that was being shown the evidence that the sun was rising much south of east and setting much south of west, circling off the single pole pressurized strawman pizza dome map. If you guessed Jerryism, you guessed right.
Let's check it out. So I just want to show everybody here. This was re-uploaded April 1st, 2017, but it's all documented that it was September 11th, 2016.
That's right. They took my channel down, so we don't have it.
Which, like this path?
You took a screenshot from a flat map, a square map, and you imposed it onto a circular map.
Square map.
Well, no, I just cut and paste the South. Yeah, there's no trickery. I put South America where South America is, and I showed you what we observed from the Earth. I'm not trying to fool anybody, Jaron. This is what they see.
Yes,
the
but
sun.
Where did you get that picture on the bottom there?
This one?
Mm-hmm.
From SunCalc.
And what does SunCalc show? A circular map or a square map?
It's a map. It's an observational map. This is a map taken from observations.
It's a square.
Well, most maps are square.
Right. So you can't use those. You need to circle them. You need to make them into a circle. Do you know how to azimuthal equidistant?
The only way you could make this work if you turn it into a circle with what we observe is a globe or a cylinder.
So, that's what Jaron was trying to do.
Do it on a flat map. Let me see if I have.
He did it later. That was supposedly his gotcha. So I go on to show him that from many places in the southern section of the map, the sun is actually rotating the opposite direction that it would be if it was circling around his single pole pressurized pizza dome. He went on to get pretty nasty and mock me. And after this, he went on to shame me and make hateful videos about me. And I was actually trying to tell him the truth. And this was almost a decade ago, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, this was our point. Both of our points, even before we knew each other, that the sunrise was from the south of east and setting to the south of west. And he denied it the last 8-9 years until he went to Antarctica. And then all of a sudden he said, that's proof we're on a globe.
Yeah. Now, and what he was always trying to prove the globe through setting up the straw man, saying that there was only one other possibility. So why does this matter? Because sunrise and sunset angles south of the equator cannot be explained by fake pizza dome models. The model collapses under its own contradictions, and this is where we parted ways with the false dichotomy psyop, rejecting both the Spaceball and the Freemasonic pizza dome because neither matches reality. Instead, we advance towards the SBVR framework, which handles luminary movements with absolute precision. The very fact that you, Will, are still trying to use sunrise and sunset direction as proof of the globe shows how far behind you are. We actually addressed this 9 years ago, almost a decade. Less than a year from now, it'll be a decade. We started with the sunrise and sunset directions. We debunked the Freemasonic New World Order pressurized single pole pizza dome with it. And we moved on to build predictive SBVR models that actually explain reality where both of your false models fail. So, Will, yes, because the single pole pressurized pizza dome is a globe projection squished with Antarctica stretched out to infinity. So, Will, when you bring up sunrise and sunset direction, it strengthens us, not your Spaceball. You actually walked straight into the very foundation of our work. You were actually steel manning our content when you bring up sunrise and sunset directions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I just want to show people real quick. We go to this at a latitude we might all be familiar with. Let's come back over into America so people sort of recognize it a little. These sunrise and sunset angles. Right now, we're in October. They're all south. So if we come to before, see how these sunrise and sunset angles are north right here of east and west? And then once we go after, at the equinox, they're right at 90, 270. And then all the way until the spring equinox, all the sunrise, sunset angles are south of east, south of west, everywhere on Earth, not just in the north. All right, I can take this to the south as well. That doesn't it doesn't change anything. It's still from the southeast to the southwest. It's not until you come back past the March equinox that you get the sunrise angles north of east and west. So
right. Experiment number 5.
The South Pole. All right, we're getting redundant here, right?
Yeah.
We've been talking about this. Let's be honest, Will, this isn't a new experiment. It's a rerun. Experiment 3 was the South Celestial Pole. Now experiment 5 is the South Pole itself. Like the barbershop pole, right?
Yeah.
That's not progress, that's padding. If you had to double up and slice the same thing into 2 separate experiments, that shows how thin your case really is. A real scientific framework doesn't need recycled categories just to reach a magic number like 12. And let's be clear, neither of these proves a spinning spaceball. All they prove is that south exists. Something we've known all along. In fact, the SBVR model predicted it years ago with 2-pole stereographic projections that account for both the north and south. That's why we debunked the single-pole pizza dome back in 2016. So when you split the South Celestial Pole and the South Pole into 2 separate experiments, you're not adding proof, you're showing the weakness of your case. You're showing that you don't have 12 experiments, you have a few recycled talking points padded out to look like more than they are. Bottom line, experiment padding isn't science. Doubling up on South Pole themes doesn't prove a spinning spaceball. After 5 experiments, you've made 0 real progress towards supporting the globe. Will, your case isn't building, it's stalling.
Yeah, and lastly, before we move on to number 6, he didn't even go to the South Pole. How is it one of his proofs that Earth is a spinning sphere? He didn't even go there. He didn't even go there and film it, didn't witness it, didn't show us how the compass would work at that direct South Pole, 90 degrees south. He didn't even do it. So this next one's a little bit more complicated, and then we're going to continue to move on. But again, the point of the experiment again is about converging longitudes. Sorry.
You want me to do this one?
Yeah.
Southern Hemisphere flights. Well, this experiment doesn't prove a spinning spaceball. It actually proves how well our SBVR model handles real-world navigation. Here's how we've shown it works. We center to an observer's latitude and longitude, the same system you use. We then plot a Haversine formula between 2 locations south of the equator. This works because latitudes north or south of the equator shorten as they approach the poles until they become a single point with 0 distance at the poles themselves. We've already demonstrated this in detail. So let's go ahead to example 1.
That's what it is, yeah.
Okay. So then what we've been showing is that because the latitudes are actually shorter the farther you go towards the poles, then mathematically there's what is it, the Haversine formula that will actually give you the shortest point between these 2 places. And so the great circle route that you're going to see from any sort of globe type projection it looks like this on a plane. So we're showing something that is modeled to scale, right, and actually has the correct headings and distances and times and everything. So yeah, you asked to see it, and here it is.
All right, so a person might be like, well, what is this? And I want to show everybody what that is. And that is, I gotta get to, all right, so this right here is an absolute 2-scale projection of Earth's coordinate system. I used SketchUp, and I did 21,600 nautical miles wide, the 10,800 nautical miles tall, and from North Pole to South Pole. Each one of these, at 10 degrees north, it's 59 nautical miles per degree. 10 degrees south, it's 59 nautical miles per degree. And so these are all the calculations. So this is Earth's coordinate system laid out to scale exactly. So then once you see that this is the absolute boundaries, the limits, it repeats once you go across an edge right here, and then you go and look at the I dropped that here. The closest that we can show anybody is a mole weed, because this is almost the same as what we show. We call the onion, the 2-scale projection of Earth. The only thing that's wrong here is it's a little bit rounded off at the top and bottom. It should be a little bit more pointy. But so this right here is an accurate representation of all of Earth on a plane, right? This isn't a globe. This isn't a ball. You've got all the continents on one side. Now, if you wanted to look at it here, this right here, the strip right down the middle is accurate in 2-scale. You have to move it like this, but it's always got all of Earth on here. And you can draw the line between 2 points, and you'll notice that because the latitudes get shorter as you go closer to the poles, to the south and to the north, there is a little bit shorter path than if you were to just draw a straight line east and west.
Due to the fact of the way that the grid is set up in the reality that we're looking at here. And one other key thing is, before we get back to the document, lastly, I just want people to understand is that the reality shifts around us. The center of creation is you. The observer is you. You don't actually physically travel to a boundary. You can't actually reach one. It's similar the way that you would not reach the end of a rainbow, nor the sun or the moon or any of the luminaries. They're at a fixed position away from you. And for the lack of a better way for us to explain it, there is no edge. There's a boundary because there's only so much land, but there's no physical barrier that you're going to run into. It's another one of the pressurized pizza dome lies that was used. If it was created that way, you would know that you're on a sphere.
We wanted to fly from Texas to South Africa. We come out here of Houston, and as we flew across the Caribbean, this would be our plane, all right? All of these, the latitudes, the longitudes are all being drawn to scale right where I'm clicking. And so as you flew around here, this would draw everything accurately the entire way.
Centered on the observer only.
Centered on the observer.
So where were you at the bottom line?
You want to show, do you want to do anything more with the southern flight routes?
Well, number 6, right? We're on number 5. Well, guess what about number 6? It doesn't stop here. Oh, that was number 6. Sorry.
This is number 6.
Yeah. Number 7, if we get into that, ladies and gentlemen, lo and behold, guess what? Tell them.
South Pole flights. It's the same thing.
The exact same thing.
He went from Southern Hemisphere flights
Yes.
to South Pole flights. It's literally exactly the same thing.
His case was so weak. They were so unable to intelligently come up with more than straw man debunks that they've had to multiply repeat. Not only are 10 of these experiments all the same, but 2 of them reciprocally are identical to the previous experiment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, Southern Hemisphere flights, South Pole flights, that's not new evidence. That's padding. Once again, let's be clear. None of this disproves Earth is a fixed and stationary plane. I mean, the way airplanes fly, the way they have the constant pitch and constant altitude, all of that, flights prove that Earth is a fixed and stationary plane. The fact that you don't get to a place twice as fast when you're heading towards the spin or going away from it, not being able to even get to where you're going. And that's the fact that at the equator, if you're flying 500 miles an hour to the east, the fact that you couldn't get to your destination and it would have to come up from behind you, stuff like that. So, so doubling up, it's the same experiment, 6 and 7, totally the same. Bottom line, this is just padding. Still zero progress.
So we'll go to another song break here as we're rounding the third half of the podcast, third section. Just so people know, this is clearly the reason why MC Toon and Fight for the Fat Earth, why they clearly wouldn't debate us. This is why they ran, right? I don't know if they hack into our computers and read the documents or if you screen shared it while you were on with Will and they caught wind of this. This is clearly not defendable. This is a joke. The fact that 10 of the 12 experiments are all the same straw man false dichotomy, right? Set up when simply, as soon as you show that there's a possibility that Earth could be flat but still have 2 poles, every single thing that Team Globe has, it disintegrates into dust. It flies. It scatters from the light like cockroaches. So let's do a song break, Jason, please. And when we come back, I want you to get into this one's a little bit more interesting because Will's own drone footage debunked himself.
Yeah, I've got 3D modeling for this one too. We are back. We are at experiment 8, shadow predictions.
It's a good number.
The great 8. Will, your own footage defeats your Spaceball. At Union Glacier Camp, you sent a drone up and filmed a 360-degree pan. What did the footage clearly show? Short shadows directly under the sun. Long shadows stretching 180 degrees away from the sun. That geometry does not work on a spinning Spaceball. If the Earth was a globe tilted at 23.4 degrees, the shadow angles would not collapse into a neat, short, long division centered on the sun. That math doesn't hold. The only way short shadows can exist like that at Union Glacier Camp is if the sun is local with an approximate radius of 15 miles from the drone's observation point. We've already documented this with full 3D modeling here. Let's go ahead and check out our prior coverage that we did of this. Getting closer. Pay attention to these shadows before they disappear, everybody. So we're doing a rotation. I want you to see the length of these shadows. And then as we come around closer and closer to where the sun is, look at how short they are. When we get around over here, you're going to see some amazing stuff. See the length of this shadow right here? You see where it's pointing? Draw that angle up in your eye, in your mind, and lo and behold, what do we have out here? We have a hot spot, and we have almost no shadow, right? If you look at these mountains, they're casting almost no shadow whatsoever. It's very close, very tight, very tight. You can see the longer shadows over here from these mountains. The shadow's almost gone because guess where the sun is, everybody? It's like right up here. It has to be just behind these mountains, casting its light down for the shadow to be that short right there. So we're going to be going through so many biblical stereographic. We've got a model that we can show too.
Let's see it.
So this right here, let's make this a little bit bigger. So this is a top-down view of like from Google Earth of this exact area. So this is where their camp was over here. This is the Mount Rossman. This is where that hot spot was. You can see the sort of bluish ice here. Now I just have these words out here, mountains, but these are text that this is an actual light in this modeling program that as I move the light, it's casting shadows. All right, so you can see if we have and the path of the sun here, I literally have it tilted exactly the way it is at 80 degrees south. So it's got that tilted path. So this is coming around over here to its lowest point when you're looking due south over here. So this is all modeled accurately, and you can see what happens with the shadows. So if I move around the scene here, you can see that because the sun's doing a circle around the observer here, this would be the drone's view up here. So it's got really short shadows directly below it. And then the 180 degrees, you've got long shadows. Right? This only works with a sun that's going locally around the observer right here. If this was a spinning Spaceball Earth with a distant sun but bright, these would be all super long shadows everywhere. You couldn't have a short shadow anywhere, but take a look at this. See how you've got the sun here and you've got the short shadow here. And then all this that's 180 degrees from the sun, that's where you get your long shadows out there. So we can use 3D modeling to actually prove that the sun's local as opposed to being 93 million miles away. And if you were to try to model something like that, you would see as all these would be extremely long shadows. Couldn't have any short shadows.
Absolutely.
Do you follow that? Is there anything else?
No, it's very basic. And if people don't understand this and they want more, we can go over it and dedicate a whole podcast to it, really.
Yeah, that's
so Will's own footage debunked the space spinning ball that he believes in.
It did.
I know once we get to 9, I definitely want to read this one because I actually can remember it from the beginning here. But yeah.
So here's another image here showing the approximate path. If he sent up the drone right here by Mount Rossman, in order to get those short shadows off of these mountains right here, but the longer shadows out here, the sun's position would have been like right here. All right, going around the observer. Experiment number 9, brother.
Yeah, well, this one's interesting because it was a psyop that I spotted very long ago. Will, this so-called experiment goes right back to one of the original false dichotomies. Math Boyland / the Wizard Powerland, the same guy who repopularized the flat earth debate roughly in 2014 with the skit that he did much earlier, like maybe 2007, he claims. Was it Comedy Central? Was the only one pushing the Freemason New World Order single pole pressurized pizza dough model. He claimed that if you could cross Antarctica, it would prove that Earth is a spinning space ball. That's what he was actually saying. But here's the problem. That's a straw man. It sets up, again, 2 wrong choices. The Hegelian dialectic, both wrong choices. And it ignores the 2-pole reality we've been demonstrating for nearly a decade. We've been saying for over 8 years that crossing Antarctica proves nothing about the true shape of reality. All it does is knock down the single pole pressurized pizza dough model, which we've already debunked years ago. It does not magically hand the win over to the space balls. Bottom line, crossing Antarctica is not a globe proof. It's just another recycled single pole straw man, one of the other 9. This is the 10th one, or we're not done yet, there's more. In the SBVR 2-pole framework, Antarctica fits naturally without requiring a spinning space ball. So Will, experiment 9 isn't proof of your model. It's proof that you're still recycling the same Freemason straw man that we dismantled many, many years ago. And you're going to handle 10. This is the only one that is a little different than the last 9.
Yeah, well, and 12's a hair different as well.
Yeah, I'll do 11.
Yeah, so experiment 10, weight variation. Will, you call this weight variation experiment proof of globe rotation, curvature, and gravity. But your conclusion collapses immediately because you left out the most basic scientific requirements, controls. Here's what we already know. Weight variation is a real phenomenon, but the cause is not latitude. It's altitude and air pressure. At sea level, air pressure is about 14.7 psi. As you rise in altitude, air pressure drops, and with it, the buoyant force acting on an object changes. That produces measurable variations in weight. Likewise, variations in altitude themselves matter. The higher above sea level, the weaker the effect of the drop algorithm in SBVR terms, producing lighter weight readings. Your so-called experiment does not account for these factors. You cannot claim latitude as the variable while completely ignoring altitude and air pressure. Without controls, your conclusion is not valid science. It's assumption. If you wanted to test latitude specifically, you would need to keep altitude constant. Keep air pressure constant. Measure only the latitude shift as variable. But you didn't, which means your experiment cannot possibly isolate latitude as the cause. Bottom line, yes, weight variation exists, but it's explained by altitude and air pressure differences, not by a spinning globe. Your lack of controls makes this claim invalid as proof. So Will, experiment 10 doesn't confirm rotation, curvature, or gravity. It only confirms that you ran an uncontrolled test and drew conclusions the data can't support.
Circular reasoning.
In the SBVR framework, the pull or drop effect is not gravity at all. It is program fall constant. F, fall, a set value that determines how fast objects accelerate when released. In imperial terms, the F fall rate is 32.174 feet per second squared. In metric, 9.8 meters per second squared. That constant is modified by local environmental variables just like any physics engine: air density, object volume, mass, and drag. The SBVR drop formula is, here it is, everybody.
Here it is.
If you want to know, your acceleration is your fall rate minus, and here's all these symbols broken down. So here's the factors that go into it. The fall constant, like we mentioned, it's 32.174 feet per second squared, or 9.8 meters second squared. The drag coefficient, this is a dimensionless factor describing how streamlined or resistant an object is as it moves through air. Anybody that's tried to make an aerodynamic car knows that there's a drag coefficient. Air density. So the density of the air around the object. Thinner air equals smaller, less drag and buoyancy. So the higher you go up in altitude, the less air there is. So there's less air density, which is less resistance. The closer you get to sea level, the air is denser, the more resistance there is. There's a cross-sectional area. So this is like a parachute versus dropping a baseball or a bowling ball or something like that. The more surface area it has, the more resistance it's going to have through the air. So a person can fall if they put their head down and dive, they'll go faster than if they spread out and they're laying flat. Velocity, mass. This is a weight of something. Now, this weight does change as you go up in altitude. Things are, things are lighter at sea level and heavier as you go up in the air because of their air actually has a buoyancy force to it. We actually sort of float in the air the closer we are to sea level. The higher we go, the more we weigh. So the first term is the program fall rate. The second term is the air resistance or drag. The third term is the buoyant lift caused by air pressure. When air pressure decreases with altitude, the buoyant lift term shrinks. Objects weigh less. No rotation, curvature, or gravity is required to explain it. Your so-called experiment does not control for these factors. You cannot claim latitude as the cause while ignoring altitude and air pressure. Without control, your conclusions is not science, it's assumption. Bottom line, weight variation is real. It's caused by air pressure and altitude, not globe rotation. It's not mass attracting mass. In the SBVR model that's fully explained by the program fall constant interacting with the atmosphere, your latitude claim, therefore, is invalid, just misidentified experimental effect.
Again, it's appropriation. It's the stealing of the concept fallacy again of the way things are actually programmed to work. Where are you going now?
I just want to show people physics in video games, physics in a virtual reality.
Yeah.
So in a virtual reality, in a video game, think of the game Angry Birds. This was one of the first games to really popularize a physics engine within it. And so if you make a video game and you don't apply a weight or a mass to something, if you don't have any sort of set variables, if a character were to drop something, it wouldn't fall, right? It has to have a programmed rate at which it's going to fall. So Angry Birds was one of the first ones where it really gave a mass to the bird. It gave a structural strength to the structures. And so you can read through stuff like this, the rigid body and collision. Each game object, like a bird or a block, is treated like a rigid body with physical properties. It has initial velocity and trajectory, and they call it gravity, but it's not mass attracting mass within a program, right? All of that is program variables where a given size is given a certain type of mass to it. It's not gravity that pulls the bird in towards the ground in the game. So physics is a real thing within all video games, within all virtual realities. And what we're saying is that on Earth, the reason why things fall isn't because they're being pulled by a mass. It's literally because there's a down vector and there's a formula that's being calculated that takes into account these factors right here. And this is literally the formula for how things fall on Earth.
That's correct. And just to cap this off, the very notion of gravity would dictate and demand that if a mountain were to be a larger mass than a smaller rock or a stone, it therefore would be pulling all of the pebbles towards it. Your car should actually roll towards larger mountains if you were to be parked at the bottom of them. No one has ever demonstrated something attracting another thing simply by its mass. The Cavendish experiment was false. It was fake. It's been sawn in half. It's not even used to represent actual weights that they've said that they've weighed the entire known observable solar system off of. So great breakdown of this, Jason. Number 11, we're going to get into the distance between meridians again. Well, this so-called experiment is not just another weak point. It's actually the core straw man behind nearly every single claim that you've made throughout your final experiment. You say distance between meridians proves curvature, but that logic is what fuels at least 10 of your 12 experiments, quote unquote, that aren't scientific in any way. In reality, it's just another recycled false dichotomy trap, either spinning globe or Freemason single pole pressurized pizza dome. Here's the truth. We rejected the single pole dome years ago. We embraced the two pole system upon a fixed and stationary Earth, which we all observe, every single living being. And yet you, instead of engaging with this reality, you keep rebranding that same straw man as quote unquote new evidence. Measuring distance between meridians doesn't prove Earth is a spinning ball. It only proves that you can measure, and those measurements work just as well on the SBVR. The false assumption is pretending they require curvature. There's no curvature when you measure with your trundle wheel, and trundle wheels aren't even that accurate. Bottom line, experiment 11 is the foundational straw man of 90% of your list. It doesn't prove curvature. Its circular reasoning assumes it. And once again, you're not moving forward. You're actually circling back to the same false dichotomy we've already demolished. So, Will, calling this evidence doesn't strengthen your case. It exposes your entire final experiment project is built on one recycled straw man, repackaged, not one, not two, not three, not four, 10 different ways.
Finally, we're done with the meridians getting the distance between meridians getting smaller.
Wow.
All right, that's
obvious. And if anyone tuning in right now, if you can explain to us why Will Duffy, McToon, Dave McKeegan, the quote unquote smartest people on Earth with the 500 years of Catholic Jesuit indoctrination behind them, why is it that 10 of their 12 supposed spinning spaceball proofs were all hinged upon a single pole pressurized straw man? Please explain to me in the comment section. I'll wait.
Experiment 12. equatorial mounts prove the globe. Will calling equatorial mounts proof of the globe only proves you don't understand what they actually do. A 2-axis gimbal, also called an equatorial mount, is exactly what's needed to record the motion of luminaries on a fixed and stationary plane. Luminaries rotate around the observer. They rise from the plane and set into the plane in their circle of sight. Their paths follow the observer's circle of sight determined by elevation above sea level. That's why equatorial mounts work perfectly in the SBVR framework. On the other hand, a spinning, wobbling spaceball would require a 3-axis gimbal because you'd have to correct for Earth's supposed spin on its axis. You'd also have to correct for Earth's supposed wobble. And then there would be parallax between the fixed stars unless they were all stationary and Earth was only spinning in place, which is nothing more than a geocentric model, not heliocentrism. Bottom line, a 2-axis equatorial mount proves nothing about a spinning spaceball. It demonstrates exactly what we say: luminaries move in predictable circles around observers on a fixed and stationary plane. If Earth were actually a rotating, wobbling globe, the mount design itself would expose it because you would need a 3-axis system to track accurately. So Will, experiment 12 doesn't prove the globe, it proves the simplicity and accuracy of the SBVR explanation.
Yeah, the main takeaway here that I want to make sure that everybody knows is that for this reality to be so perfectly programmed, that is the proof that we're in the SBVR, right? The fact that we can actually perfectly align a simple 2-axis gimbal and perfectly track all of the luminaries exactly the way that Enoch said, the way that Andrew Marsh has it plainly put for all the world to see, completely shows that equatorial mounts work as they track and follow the moving luminaries in the sky.
All right, so I want to show everybody from his actual video, the equatorial mounts, experiment 12. Check this out.
Would never work in the...
What's that?
The ghost of Will Duffy. To finish off the podcast, you're going to bring his face on. Let's go play it.
Yeah, we gotta show the SBVR's explanation here, how it works.
South. And since there is not a south celestial pole on a flat Earth, and EQ mounts work just fine in the south, we know the Earth is not flat. Once the EQ mount's angle is equal to your latitude and polar aligned, now the telescope or camera mounted to the EQ mount will be able to track any celestial object with just a single axis of rotation. Again, this is impossible on a flat Earth.
Do what? Did you see what it just did?
Yeah.
So he literally showed, this is courtesy of Astronuts 66. I went and found the video that's longer here. So this is his equatorial mount proof. Go ahead and watch the path here.
Equatorial mount is in this configuration.
So it's going around, and there it
goes.
Setting right into Earth.
What a joke.
All right, so this is literally what we've been showing the whole time, that an equatorial mount, if you were to set it down here at the center here, and you polar align it, and you have it rotating in a 15-degree rotation, that it would go around here.
Way to go. Way to go, Will. You proved our model for us.
Set right into Earth, right?
Your final experiment, observation / proof of Earth being a spinning globe, actually is proof of the Andrew Marsh being physical and repeatable in reality. So let's close it out. We've got this final statements here. Engine project, geometry, meridians, and luminary paths. We got number 1, the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Predictable azimuth and elevation paths in the SBVR. Number 2, the 24-hour moon in Antarctica. Horizontal circling above poles is absolutely predictable and what's demanded in our SBVR model. South celestial pole. So the 2-pole stereographic projection is absolutely the only way that you could navigate throughout the grid system here on Earth. You couldn't do it with a single pole. That's why our SBVR has it matched perfectly without tilting any of your luminaries to incorrect positions, thus debunking and defying all laws and things that you then state at a 23.5 degree tilt. Your 9270 doesn't work, your equinoxes are off, and your solstices are actually your 9270s.
And you don't have to have anybody upside down from you, 8,000 miles beneath your feet.
And nobody's upside down. And I'll let you finish these out. For the sunrise and sunset direction, obviously we knew about that. I showed Jaron almost a decade ago. Next year, it's going to be 10 years. I showed him that the sun was rising south of east and setting south of west all over the entire map on the south. Jason, take it over. Take us home.
South Pole, come on. We're just repeating ourselves now. The Southern Hemisphere flights, we know that the meridians they come together 2 points. So the distances between them get shorter. So you actually can get a shorter path by heading towards the poles a little bit.
Haversine.
You use the Haversine formula. South Pole flights, exact same thing. And of course you can fly over the South Pole. You can walk across it. You can go from side to side of Antarctica. Antarctica is exactly the size and shape that Spaceballers say it is, but it's not upside down.
And it's flat and stationary.
Yeah. Shadow predictions, we've shown through 3D modeling that what Will recorded with his drone, the only way you could replicate that is to have a local sun rotating around the observer. It couldn't be a Spaceball 93 million miles away because it would always have long shadows. Crossing Antarctica, once again, of course you can. And distance between meridians, yeah, they get shorter in the south because they do. And we don't try to use a single pole pressurized pizza dome. The Z-axis drop algorithm. In any sort of virtual reality, you have to have some sort of a code for how things are going to fall, how fast they are, whether or not there's going to be error resistance, all those factors. And yeah, we know the actual formula.
No spinning Spaceball with fake gravity needed.
No mass attracting mass, no upside down water and ships upside down and rain falling up and all that kind of stuff.
Snowing upside down. You dig a hole, then you pass the other person. You're both, inverted.
Engine 3, the predictable program motions, the tracking mounts. We showed that a 2-axis gimbal, the only way it's going to be able to track the luminaries is when we look at this. All right, you put your 2-axis gimbal right there.
Boom.
And the fact that this never changes, the speed of the sun never changes, we're not spinning and wobbling through an orbit. The fact that this continues to work for thousands and thousands of years, that would only work on a fixed and stationary plane.
In a programmed reality.
Mm-hmm. I gotta pull this up a little bit.
Final takeaway. Drum roll, please.
12 experiments, 3 recycled concepts, all 3 fully explained by the SBVR. 0 exclusive proof of a spinning spaceball. Will, your final experiment collapses. The SBVR explains it all.
So here's the challenge. If Craig and MC Toon are too cowardly to debate us, go ahead. Go through this entire podcast, both of you on your channels, and debunk it. Show the whole world. It's your turn. It's your move. Spinning Spaceball team monkeys. It's your turn. It's your move. Show us. We've done our best. It's your turn now.
Absolutely. But we don't stop here. We've got the third part of this debate coming, and that's SBVR versus heliocentrism.
They're not going to debate us, so we'll probably end up just doing the heliocentric debunks.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Unless somebody wants to come up and debate heliocentrism versus the stereographic biblical virtual reality, I would love that, but they're all cowards. They've been hiding from us for years. Why is it that Simon Dan or Dave McKeegan or any of these other channels have ever done a video about Jason or I? We've been out here the entire time. Actually, we've been here just as long, if not longer, than Nathan Oakley. Why are they just constantly talking about erection devices and, mercury shafts and drones and gyroscopes? Why won't they address us, ladies and gentlemen, on the other side of the screen? Why are we the most censored? Why are we hidden? Why are people afraid to debate us? Why is there only how many people tuning in, which I appreciate each and every one of you? 29 people here. Where are the 31 it went up to? Where are the hundreds of people that are interested in the debate of our reality? We're not simply bringing out a concept that hasn't been brought to the forefront. The Matrix is a virtual reality movie. You're literally plugged into another reality that's been programmed and coded. And we've just simply been showing you the evidence from literal clouds behind the sun and the moon, with the way that all the luminaries and the rainbows work, the way that everything is perfectly predicted from, you can chart and graph 5,000 years ago to 5,000 years from now, how the exact movements of all the luminaries and everything in the sky will be perfectly predicted. Do you think that that's by chance on the other side of the screen? Do you think that that's a evolutionary grown up from monkey type model where everything came into nothing, from being to everything? All of it just stands and fails to be predicted. But the SBVR model that was created by the creator of the Bible and many other scriptures, and all that is true and all that is good, will stand the test of time. Jason, excellent job tonight. I'm super disappointed that Will wouldn't actually debate you, or MC Toon, or Craig McNeil, or Dave McKeegan, or Jaredism, or all of their team. Simon Dan, you're all a bunch of cowards, and you will be shown for all of time with all of heaven and earth. You will be witness to lying and following the false, what do we call it? The Great Deception.
Yeah. And our 12 heliocentric debunks aren't going to be 10 regurgitations of the exact same concept. Each and every one of them is going to be a different way of debunking the spinning space fall. So we'll be looking forward to that. Thank you, brother. Where's the only place people are going to get this content?
Only on the Yahawashai News Networks.
Got a